It's your limiting beliefs that are creating the majority of these boundaries, laws, rules, and determinants. Like you feel like things happen a particular way. You feel like, anything that you assume about life is starts inside of you first. So it's important to not jump to conclusions and actually move through life with a curiosity and a willingness to test these boundaries and laws and rules and even things that you might call a determinant, like things that you're born into that are so ingrained in like communities and society in the world that it could never possibly be an illusion. But without jumping too far ahead, I think that's what I've been focusing on lately. Like, where am I the obstacle, the boundary? Like, where have I imagined laws and rules and determinants that are preventing me from growing into new spaces? Because I do feel that I can grow into new spaces. And one thing that I've been doing is like a massive audit on everything that I've created, everything that I've tried to contribute to the world, everything that I've explored and researched. And I'm looking at the patterns and themes. I'm looking at it objectively. I'm looking at what I've actually done to the best of my ability. It's always going to be somewhat subjective. I'm always going to have emotions about what I want to do, what I felt like I was going to do, what I achieved, what I didn't achieve, how successful I feel, all of those things. But I'm trying to look at it objectively, and I'm seeing that different paths that I've taken have led to different outcomes, and that is helping me to see how it all works, like how it all actually works, and like where I am the obstacle in my own way and where I've actually come up against something that does feel solid. And what I mean by that is like a boundary or a rule or a determinant of some kind that feels like it's actually stopped me, and I've like bumped up against it. And then when I find one of those, instead of going, oh, that's not the way, I'm having a really good hard look at it, and I'm thinking like, did I test that boundary enough? Could I have found a way through it or around it? Or could I just simply have, like, was it a self-created boundary? Was it a self-created end to that path? Did I just give up? That's the most common thing that I've noticed in a lot of situations, because I am fortunate enough to know that when you create something, and I've seen this through like digital content creation, but it's true of everything in life. Trees growing, even, like it could be as true for a tree growing out of the earth as it is for growing a social media following. Like, it starts off slow. It looks like it's not happening, or it's happening so gradually, but the more that it grows, the faster it grows. So that, before I understood that, my laws and boundaries and determinants around growth were, it's slow and it takes forever and we're never going to get there. But as I tested those boundaries and I continued to try to grow different aspects of my life, I started to see things take off. And I started to see how several times all different creations of mine have just grown like faster than I can even emotionally handle the consequences of that growth, like especially in the social media side of things, like way before anything that is still available to view online. Like, I've had many viral sensations. Like, I was probably one of the early adopters of like YouTube as a, like, I wanted to be a YouTuber early, before YouTubers were even really a thing. I was one of the first people making videos. And so I went through that whole Wild West era too, where there were no rules and laws and boundaries and things could just go crazy like that. And that even became a new boundary within myself, or a new assumption or limiting belief, because I looked at the changing ecosystem of the internet and social media and the rules that were imposed and the limitations and demonetization, or whatever the things are that are happening, different, like literally state and federal laws being imposed on social media platforms, and the restrictions that were taking place. And so, because I started early, when everything was free to flow and you could just create anything that you wanted, and some of my earliest content that went all over the internet, I regret. Like, I'm like, that was just like terrible. Like, very bad influence on everybody that had access to that. And that's why these laws and things have been created, so that young people, like in their teenage years and early 20s, aren't putting really damaging stuff out there that's like polluting the minds of our youth or whatever. I don't know how much I want to like have laws and not have laws. That's not what this is about. But the thing that happened to me is I saw the past where I was totally free, and I saw the present where there's so much restriction, and I started to turn that into a limiting belief. Like, I can't be successful because all of these things. So we do that to ourselves in so many different ways. And today I'm just reflecting on, really deeply reflecting on this, actually. I've been reflecting on it for a while, because I'm at a stage where I'm thinking I want to go back to square one, which sounds incredibly crazy if you still had the limiting belief that it takes a long time to grow things. But I just know that it's the beginning that takes a long time, or it feels like it takes a long time. If I started something new today with clearly defined intent and a clearly defined purpose, and I knew the path that I wanted to walk, and I knew that I wanted to do it consistently, and I wasn't just going to get bored of it in 6 months, it would grow, and I would have like the kinds of successes that I've had in the past. I just want to have the kind of success that I've had in the past with the integrity that I now hold as a really high value principle. Like, I want integrity in everything that I do. I want the stuff that I put out there to be of benefit to other people, not send them off on a wild goose chase of absurdity, nihilism, chaos and destruction, which is like what I initially created, because that was my reaction to the world, right? When I was a young man, like, I hated the world, I hated myself, I hated everybody. So that was the manifestation of what I created. And even that, like, that's why you need to be mindful of like your intent and like what you're feeding in here, because it does come out into the world, and you can have an impact. Maybe some of you don't really have much of an impact, but you can, and you might, and you don't even realize. Even if you feel like you're kind of isolated in your own little bubble and you're not impacting other people very much, you don't realize the ripple effects that you have either. Like, the closest friends and family that do interact with you are being influenced and affected by your reality and like what you're putting out, even just to the people closest to you. But I just had access to the internet, and I got access to way too many people, and probably, like, I feel like maybe I'm still like still some of the karma from that, like I still owe a little bit back. Like, maybe even that's why, like, I'm trying to balance it by trying to give some meaningful positive contributions to the world. Like, if I can just like balance that, maybe I can even walk away from all of it and I can just be happy. I can just be like settled with that. Not even happy, just balance. Like, okay, done. But I don't think so, because I want to make this contribution of positive stuff that's in integrity much bigger than anything negative that I produced in the past. So with all of that said, going back to the drawing board, I'm reconsidering everything. And I've done a bunch of new things in the last 12 months that I never would have done before. And in doing those new things, I've tested new boundaries. And I've discovered that so many of the things that I was doing and the ways that I was trying to do things weren't very effective. And that's one big limiting belief that I've had my entire life. And I know it's probably going to trigger people when I say this, because they're going to see themselves, but I've had a massive know-it-all streak. Like, I learn about something for 15 minutes and I think I know all about it. That's always been a massive obstacle for me, but it's been the most invisible obstacle for me. We talk about determinants and obstacles and laws and rules outside of ourselves that are stopping us from achieving what we want to do. But the biggest ones are the ones that are inside of us, which all of it really is, because it's just a reflection of what's inside. And a lot of the determinants that you feel are stopping you from achieving what you want to achieve are just things that you're making up to avoid looking at yourself and avoid looking at the fact that you're the one that's in your own way. Like, if I just stopped being a big know-it-all, I could actually go and learn some stuff. Like, I could have done everything that I wanted to do 10 times over by now if just that one thing, that one obstacle was removed. And You know, that's pretty profound, right? Like how, like your thing might not be that. You might not be a big know-it-all. You might actually have the opposite of that. You might feel like you have no confidence and you can't believe in yourself and you can't do anything that you set your mind to because you don't know anything and you're lost in this world. I got news for you. Those were all of the bullshit excuses that I made for myself back in the day. Like I used to say, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do anything. I don't have any guidance. I don't have any mentors. I don't have any tools. I don't have any blah, 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 blah. But secretly, behind all of that was this, I know better. I know everything. Like, we're not just, there isn't just this one stream of pure consciousness going on when, as a human being, right? We have conflicting stuff going on inside of us, like most of us. I mean, like, I don't know, maybe some of like the saints and sages and gurus of the world, they do have a clear, perfect path through life. But even them, I don't think it's ever going to be totally clean and tidy. As long as you're in a human vessel, like, you're going to have stuff going on inside of you that it's messy. That's part of being a human, and that's cool. That's what we're here for. It's like, it doesn't necessarily need to be this perfect linear path towards everything that you want to achieve. And all of those words that are coming out of my mouth, understand that that's my shit. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to affect you in any way. You can just observe me and go, wow, okay. But if the stuff does resonate, if you do see yourself saying, I'm lost and I don't know what to do, but in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, I'm a bit of a know-it-all. Like, don't worry about me. Reflect on you. That's what these video diaries are about. I'm reflecting on my stuff to encourage other people to reflect on their stuff. Because it's once we start to look at ourselves and look at our own life and look at all this stuff that I'm pointing out in this video, that we can start to see and truly audit what's taking place that's blocking us from the things that we really want to achieve, or really want to do, or really want to experience. It doesn't have to be achievement even. Achieve is a word of mine that holds more weight and value than it probably should. Like, if I could let that go as well, I could relax and maybe even enjoy this process a little bit more, which would also be more attractive for an audience and to grow all of the things that I want to do, and maybe more people would come for sessions and all of this stuff. Like, I'm still learning, I'm still peeling back the layers. And if these videos help you with that process yourself, please leave your comments down below, share what you're thinking and feeling in the present moment. It's just as valid and valuable to the viewers as anything that I say. People do read the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already, and click the like button for me.